This is part 2 of my past and future solve, where I'm trying to basically convince myself that it's really in Tahoe. And I think I have. But before I go any further, this is just my opinion. I have no clue where a box is. It might be wrong. Most likely it is. So it's just my opinion. I don't know. I don't have a box in my hand, so if you missed part 1, go back and watch that. I'll link it up here. I'll link it in the description also. This won't make any sense otherwise. So yeah, go watch that one. We left off on the K2K trail, and in John's Q&A, he went pretty detailed into what easements are and how there might be a trail that crosses private property, but there's easements. So if you cross private property, you're allowed to. And I believe he was talking about the K2K trail, because there's maybe a quarter mile that crosses right across private property. I'll put a map up so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, and it's actually fenced in private property, but the trail goes right through the middle of it. And I've noticed that, since my last video, I've been on Discord a lot, and searchers are still just taking this puzzle so deep. It's just like, I don't get it. I really don't. Sure, he says it's simple. Are we to believe him or not? It's supposed to be a puzzle that lasts multiple years. But he also says this.
I think that I had a word search, so you need to search for words. And I had a cryptogram that you need to uncode or decode, and that was it.
Sounds pretty straightforward to me. So where do we go from the K2K trail? It's a long trail. We're not going to search the whole thing. Like I said, part of it's on private property, so there's got to be some kind of indicator. So I just kept saying K to K, and then I looked at the words. The only 2 Ks in the word search are connected to peak and walk. And it makes sense, walk to peak. And if you look, John actually tells us that, because between the A in walk and the E in peak, it says 2. So walk to peak. The trail is over a mile long. There's a ton of peaks. But if you look at this topo map, there's only one peak that's like close to the trail, and it's to the west. And right above the word peak is west. So walk to peak west makes sense. Stick with me. So before we go to that peak, let's talk about Ready Player One. If you've read Ready Player One, you know that for the first key, Wade is looking for, what's it called? Oh yeah, the Tomb of Horrors. Wade is looking for the Tomb of Horrors. He's narrowed it down to his school planet, which is called Ludus. But in Dungeons and Dragons, the Tomb of Horrors is, I'll show a picture of it here somewhere. It's got a skull on the side of the mountain made out of, or formed by rocks. Not made out of rocks, but formed by rocks. There's a skull. And the Tomb of Horrors is supposed to be inside of, next to, around this hill, or this little peak. Okay, we'll call it a peak. Now check out that little hill or peak that's next to the K2K, or just west of the K2K. This is from Google Earth. Does that look like 2 grandparents to you? I stood on top of that peak, peering over Grandpa's shoulder, and you know what I saw? Highway 50, where you could tally traffic. So grandparents tallying traffic. This is the clue that, as I think I said it in my last video, I was just like, it's got to be Tahoe. There's no other option. I can't steer myself away from Tahoe. I'm stuck. I'm not sure if anybody could convince me of anything else, especially after I saw this. And I was so excited when I saw this that my wife and I, we went to Tahoe. I think this was last March or April. March or April of 2025. So almost a year ago. And we searched all over that hill. There's like a big pile of rocks. It's like just to the north of it. I searched that entire thing. I think we spent 2 days there and just searching and found diddly squat, nothing. But when I got back home, I did a little more research, and that map I showed you earlier that has the private property on it. Yeah, the peak at the very top of that hill, it's on private property. So that was a little discouraging. John surely, when he said it's not on private property, and it's not, but I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, if you go at that peak, where from the easement area, there's no trespassing signs everywhere. But you can't go from that area to that peak. But if you go around to the north, where the trail is directly east of the peak, so the peak is directly west, and then you cross the forest, there's no trail, but there's also no trespassing signs. There's even a break in the fence where that peak is, or that hill. So is it open to easement? I checked. There's a geocache up there too. I don't know. But anyway, now before there's a mad dash to this hill, it's not there. 95% guarantee it's not on or around that hill. Believe me, I have searched. I've been there probably 6 times on my own. I think my wife has been there twice with me, but we've searched all around that hill. My clues number 4 and 5, my current solve, yeah, they take me pretty far away from that hill, which that explains 2 things in John's Q&A just this past, was that like 3 weeks ago now, where he talks about the 5 clues. He says nobody has solved all 5 clues, and then also nobody's been close to the past and future box. Now with my current solve, that makes total sense to me, because even though I get to that peak and I'm like, sure it's in Tahoe, I'm nowhere near the end of my solve because of these 2 pieces that I won't talk about until I can go boots on the ground. Then I might. I probably will. If I find it or not, I'll probably spill the beans, let the rest of it go. But then also, because even if John knows if somebody got to this peak or this mountain with the grandparents on the side, it's nowhere near the treasure or nowhere near the end, according to my solve, at least. I don't know. It might be right on the top of that hill that I've searched. But anyway, if that would make total sense to me. If the rest of my solve indicates, what John has said, it all falls into line. And then I have a few confirmers from the word search. They involve ciphers, and I didn't come up with them. But I've been sitting on this. I knew what this peak was. I knew about the grandparents since, last March, probably February is when I first discovered it, something like that. So probably about a year ago. But I've been stuck peering over Grandpa's shoulder. The few people have come up with ciphers where they come up with joined paths. When I see joined paths, I think of going on the trail, on the K2K trail, when you are almost directly east of that peak, the path join. It's not joined paths, but paths join. The trail and the creek, they come together, and the creek is basically like 15 to 20 feet. I'll show a video of it, but the creek is going right down the middle of the trail, and then it goes off, and the trail goes off a different direction. And I think about, would that still be like that in 5 years? I doubt it. But for me, it was just a confirmer. It might be totally off base. Then the other one was the top secret O. It's when you put all the double letters together or find all the double letters or something like that. And then you anagram that, it comes up with top secret O. I believe it's secret top O, where on Google Earth you can see the grandparents. No, makes sense to me. And then, as I said, that's as far as I'm taking this video. Clues 4 and 5, I'm keeping to myself until I get a chance to go with boots on the ground, which hopefully, if the snow melts off, will be soon, but I don't know. So for my next video, I'm not going to be talking about past and future. We've also got a pretty solid solve for lion's share. And we've gone boots on the ground probably a total of, I'd say 12, 13 days over the last 3 months. And we've got it narrowed down where we're pretty sure we're close to that. So we might be going boots on the ground for that before the past and future. But either way, you'll find out. I'll be sharing a little bit more about the clues that led us to where we're at. Won't tell you where. I'll give you an idea of what the clues that we were looking at that gave us this pretty good solve. But again, it might be wrong. Most likely it is. Until next time, thanks for watching.